So it seems that we've got a surprise reveal of Space Marine Captain Titus from the Space Marine 2 video games. It seems that not only will he be rendered in the new Space Marine 2 game that's coming out in the not too distant future, but it looks like that we've also got a boxed game for him as well. I guess it does kind of make sense that Games Workshop's trying to convert a whole load of video game fans to their core tabletop offering, and it does seem that Space Marine 2 is going to be a game that's going to make an impact on a scale that Warhammer often doesn't, getting a lot of other people potentially interested in the characters and setting. Lots of people who might not be too averse to converting to miniature games. To try and hit that nail on the head, it would seem, Games Workshop appears to be releasing a box set to go alongside Space Marine 2, a mini game with a brand new Space Marine model. Lieutenant Titus looks like he's taking on a bunch of Tyranids and showing the Xenos the Emperor's justice. Let's take a look at the shiny new miniature rendered for Mr. Titus and talk about the clues that Games Workshop might have given us for this game, the things that are going to be in it, and roughly when and where it's going to be released. Hello and welcome back to Warspets Tactics, where today I thought we'd cover the new Space Marine board game reveal coming out of the Skulls 2023 preview. The Skulls preview is Games Workshop's reveal session where they get a whole load of their game developers together and show off a whole bunch of content that's going to be potentially coming out for computer games in the nearish future. Games Workshop do have quite a lot of irons in the fire with that at the moment. They tend to be at least fairly liberal with allowing other companies to use their IP, at least when it comes to licenses for game development, if not things like fan animations. I wasn't really expecting anything to really have any news for physical miniatures or the actual main game of Warhammer 40k throughout this, but it does seem that we've got a surprise reveal, a brand new Space Marine miniature in Lieutenant Titus, star of the Space Marine series, and he's going to be appearing in a little box game having a showdown against some Tyranids. As I mentioned, this really does feel like Games Workshop pushing to try and get a few people who are interested in the video games into the more mainstream hobby of 40k. It definitely does feel like a little gateway game type box, a small little collection of miniatures that might well just look quite good on your shelf if you're a fan of the Space Marine series, but also potentially something that could get people interested in collecting the mainstream hobby and building up to a full army of Space Marines or Tyranids or something. They have got a few of these offerings already, generally tend to be not the most exciting value in the world for the actual miniatures contained, but just things that might catch the eye and interest a casual observer, and maybe a bit more appropriate for more general shops and things, as opposed to their more specialised hobby stores where people already tend to know what they're doing. I'd say the biggest news though is the new Titus miniature that's going to be in this box. We do have a fair few pictures of him, both from that reveal trailer and a few that Games Workshop has just released on Warhammer Community. Looks like in this rendition, Titus is going to be fighting with a heavy bolt pistol and a chainsword, a fairly dynamic looking miniature, jumping forward to dispatch some sort of Xenos horror, no doubt. The model's got a couple of cool details. You can see his Ultramarines chapter icon on his right knee pad there. It's got some of those Space Marine head studs going on, with the 3 studs on his right forehead, but otherwise maybe doesn't go too far from the mould for Space Marine characters. He is just wearing standard Mark 10 Indomitus armour, and is looking fairly practical there without too much ostentatious bling. Looks like he's got some personal heraldry on the right pauldron there, plus a little inquisitorial token there. That one's a nice little touch. To some extent, even though he's a pretty cool character from an iconic gaming series, I'm sure the arrival of yet another Primaris Lieutenant won't be the best news for at least some people. I feel like we're roundabout up to number 15 or 16 in terms of unique Lieutenant sculpts now, and is also not the first one to have a chainsword and bolt pistol either. Still though, again with the Tyranid one that we've seen recently, I feel like he maybe does have a bit more character than most. I guess the main reason that you'd get him is because you like the character in the video game series, as opposed to really wanting another Primaris Lieutenant with some fairly simple war gear. I feel like they have done a good job of capturing Titus from his appearance in the artwork and the video games. You can tell that the miniature's definitely been designed with the Space Marine 2 box art in mind that you can see on the left. Otherwise, from Games Workshop's pictures, looks like he's got a little bit of Ultramarine heraldry on the power pack, and it is quite nice to see a better photo of him that isn't just from that reveal trailer. As for the game itself, it does appear that Mr. Titus is alone in facing down the Tyranid hordes. Maybe not the single most surprising thing in the world, seeing as he's basically the star of the video game. Generally, he's going to be the one that the player's going to be controlling, hacking and slashing his way through the Xenos hordes. Looks like it'll be a game variant where you're literally just playing with one miniature, facing down a whole load of Xenos. In the box set, Games Workshop's confirmed that there'll be 23 Warhammer 40k miniatures in there, Lieutenant Titus himself, 2 squads of the new Tyranid Termagants, and their attached Rippers, as you get 1 base of Rippers per every 10 models. Kind of interesting enough that in terms of model value, it's probably going to be more value in terms of Tyranid miniatures than it is in terms of Space Marines, though I suppose how much they might resell on eBay for might be determined as to whether or not they release Titus separately anywhere else. If he's literally only available through this box set, I feel like a lot of people online might be paying excess amounts for him, just due to not being able to pick him up otherwise. I'd guess that in 10th edition, Termagants probably aren't going to be the hardest thing to get your hands on if they are appearing in the Leviathan starter box, and probably future starter sets to follow that as well. In terms of other things pictured in the video, it did look like there was a paint pot pictured, but it doesn't seem like there's any hint of that being in the box by Games Workshop's preview. It does have a big rulebook and some assembly instructions, and then a double-sided game board and some counters and dice for playing the game itself. I guess that the game board's double-sided for the different missions that you can play. Apparently the mini-game will have 4 different mission modes, 2 of them a bit more introductory, and then 2 of them a bit more full-fat, I'd guess using one side of the game board and the other for some variant terrain or something. In the teaser trailer, they supposedly call it a thrilling survival game, so I guess it's going to be Mr. Titus cutting his way through Tyranids to objectives or an extraction point. I wonder if they might go the same sort of way as they did with Space Hulk with it, where you have the Tyranids respawn until he achieves his objectives. I'm pretty certain that this won't just be using the standard rules for Warhammer 40k. Seems unlikely that you'd just be playing full fat 10th edition or whatever with just literally one miniature on one side. I'm sure it'll have some sort of bespoke rules to make things a little bit more engaging there. Finally, in terms of how it's released, apparently this is initially being sold in Target stores in the US initially, so I guess the rest of the world might have a bit longer to wait from that. They did say it will be coming to other territories as well though, so it isn't going to be one of those ones that's just US exclusive. Not sure how long it'll be sticking around for. I guess if it's themed to the Space Marine 2 games, then it might not necessarily be in rotation for an extended amount of time. It does feel very much in a similar sort of feel to other small box games like this that they've released. Not really aimed at people who are jumping straight into the 40k hobby outright, but maybe just a bit of a teaser that might get people interested and think about jumping into 10th edition with a combat patrol or full army. In any case though, let me know what you make of Lieutenant Titus and the game release. To me it looks like a fairly fun little set. I can't help but think though a lot of people might be more interested in the Space Marine miniature rather than a whole horde of gaunts. As I said, I feel like Termagants won't be too hard to come by in 10th edition due to being in the Leviathan box in spades. If you've enjoyed the video and you'd like to see more like this, then feel free to subscribe to Auspex Tactics. I'll certainly try and keep up with Games Workshop's news and releases as they come out. Finally, if you have been enjoying all the videos on the channel, I would just like to mention that Auspex Tactics does have a Patreon page as well, and that's how I can keep on making videos like this quite so regularly. Channel patrons do get a fair few advantages, seeing certain videos early, regular votes to see what sort of things come next on the channel, and automatic entry into the regular prize giveaways with a chance to win some big model kits each month. If any of that sounds good to you, or you'd just like to help support, the link is down in the video description. In any case, an absolutely massive thank you for listening, and I'll hope to see you guys next time.